Hey everyone, welcome to the Fortress of Solitude podcast. I'm your host, Sergio Pereira, and I'm joined once again by the man of the hour, the Fortress editor, the one who holds the power sword. He's got the power. It's Jared Saunders. Jared,
The grey
how are
man.
you?
The grey man.
No, you're not the
I'm
grey
good at
man.
you.
You're not you're not Sierra 6 or anything like that. No, you're just you're the head of the. You're basically like the head of the CIA. That is what it is. Because
oh,
obviously, as the editor of
oh.
Fortress, you're the one that sends us all out to die. That's what happens.
Yeah. I,
Like when you
I
give me,
should.
like
I
when you give me
should.
Farm Simulator, that's how you send me out to die.
Oh my goodness.
How's it going, Jared?
I'm cool at you.
No, I'm really good, man. I'm really good, and I'm actually really excited to discuss this movie today because I mean we've heard a lot about the Grey Man for quite a while. I mean Netflix obviously announced it quite a while back, and then it was announced that it's obviously going to be the Russo brothers, the directors. Ryan Gosling is starring in it, Chris Evans, Anna de Armas, Jessica Henwick. It's a really like star-studded cast, the
Yeah.
movie, and there's a lot of things going back and forth about it. Little hints here, and it was based on obviously the novels, the Grey Man novels as well. And this is kind of like Netflix's attempt at creating almost, I think, kind of like a little bit of a competition for. I don't want to say Bond because it's almost too
Yeah.
easy to always go towards Bond, but maybe something like Reacher or something like that. It's their way of trying to compete
It's
with it.
it's very it's very Bond though. Like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Bond.
This,
Bond meets bit of Jason Bourne, like a touch of Jason Bourne. It's not as realistic as Jason Bourne, but there's
yeah,
something there that. That the usual spy stuff.
yeah. But I mean, it was exciting to see it. But obviously, there's always a fear that you kind of worry, like a movie like this, a star-studded cast, and you think to yourself, "Wow, this is really, really incredible." And I mean, I read somewhere that the production budget was like $200 million, so it's
Oh
literally the
yeah,
most expensive movie that Netflix has ever made. And you kind of say to
yeah.
yourself, "But okay, with a movie with that budget, why can't it find a studio? Why can't it find a wide studio release?" You start
Yeah.
worrying, like, is the movie going to be terrible? Is this why it's going to Netflix? I mean, we've seen some Netflix movies that have been released that are like, oof, woof.
Yeah.
They're a little bit hard to
Yeah.
watch
Yeah.
sometimes. You understand why
Yeah.
the studio's like, just release on
I
Netflix.
think I'm guessing here, but I think Netflix wanted to make something on par with some of the blockbusters. I think because they've released so many movies that are sort of like the rejected studio movies, they
Yeah.
wanted to make their own sort of studio movie, and I think this is like the first of many. I'm assuming, like, there's something about this movie, like it's like the type of thing that I would have paid to go and watch at the cinema. You know,
Yeah.
it's like that big. The action is big. The special effects is big. The acting cast, everything about it is like huge.
It's
It's
massive.
it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
movie that would have done so well at the box office. It would have made millions at the box office, but instead,
Well,
you're watching it in your home now, which I think
that's the
is pretty
thing.
cool. I mean, when I watched it, I was blown away. I was like, damn, like if they released a movie like this every week, I would probably never go to the cinema again.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, it's also the question. Sure, you've got the likes of Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, Anna de Armas, and it's like, I mean, Billy Bob Thornton. You got like Alfred Woodward. I mean, it's got a great cast. But the thing is, like, I think we've seen in Hollywood nowadays that a good cast doesn't necessarily just sell a film.
Yeah,
We've noticed that, and I mean, there've been a lot of really good movies that have come out that haven't done anything. And I like to kind of compare this in a way to, it's not similar, I'd say, in tone, but remember American Assassin? With Dylan
yes,
O'Brien and Michael Keaton. When
yeah,
I saw
yeah,
the trailers for that, that looked really good. And it kind of was like, similar sort of premise. It's also based on a novel, you know,
hmm
um, and it's about like, obviously somebody that, brought in and stuff like that. And that didn't really do very well at the box office. And I kind of
yeah.
wondered to myself, if this wasn't perhaps, like a reaction to that, like, ooh, okay, we're a little bit worried of releasing it because what if it doesn't do well? What if it flops at the box office? Because I don't think American Assassin was a bad movie. I mean, look, it wasn't.
No,
I don't think it was on par with like like any of the Bourne films or Mission Impossible or anything. But I thought it was pretty decent. And I thought it could have been a start of a really cool
but
franchise. Could have had a couple of
are we
movies.
sure that this movie isn't made by Netflix for Netflix? That's what it seemed like to me. Like it wasn't like one of the ones they picked up from somewhere. Like You know,
It was
a lot of
distributed
the
by them. I'm having a look now. Actually, it says the project was first set up by New Regency with James Gray set to direct the screenplay in 2011. It's been around for a while. I mean, Brad Pitt was involved in it at some point. Charlize
okay.
Theron was actually in talks for gender swapped version. It's Sony Pictures, and Anthony and Joe Russo were writing the screenplay. So basically, like it had been floating around in the system for quite a
Okay.
while, and that's probably the reason why. At some point they probably decided, you know what, let's just grab this, and nobody else was doing it because it's also got like a limited theatrical release. Like tomorrow, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, it's going to be released, and then obviously it's going to be on Netflix. But this is a big Netflix movie. I think everyone is known about
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm actually, to be honest with you, I kind of feel like they haven't said enough about it. Like it's one of those movies where you kind of always find like Stranger Things. I mean, even driving into like the city, I've seen like billboards of Stranger Things like everywhere, like a Vecna
Yeah,
and all the stuff,
yeah,
and even the boys, from like for
yeah.
Amazon Prime, I've seen like stuff. I've seen nothing about the Grey Man. Like
But
there's no
one
promotional
thing
material out
I've
there.
yeah, what I've noticed about Netflix though is that like they only seem to promote stuff like the week of release. Like you'll probably see. I'm assuming this is going to happen at like that week when the movie released. You'll see this everywhere, but before that, it wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know what that marketing strategy is, but that's usually. I mean, with Stranger Things, it was the same thing for me. Like
Yeah.
I only saw all the marketing the week of release, and then like the weeks that followed.
It's possible because
So
I
I
mean,
don't
look,
know.
I guess with the weekly release schedule that they have for everything, they're scared that things might get buried in the
Yeah.
messaging somewhere. It is a possibility. I mean, that's 100%. But again, like I said,
There's no way they spend so much money on this movie and they don't promote it. That would just be insane.
well, I mean, yeah, look, I think that it should do pretty well. I mean, I've got no doubts that it's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah,
one of the most watched thing. It's going to be interesting to see because obviously, Netflix, they're not very transparent about their metrics and like what they consider a
yeah.
success or anything because this is supposed to kickstart a franchise. Now,
Okay.
can Netflix kick off like 200 million per movie? That's a question. Like,
Oh,
how many
yeah,
eyeballs do they actually need like on this to
yeah,
justify kickstarting like another, I don't know, let's say 3-4 movies down the line? Because I mean, we saw that
yeah,
the other movie that the Russo brothers did with Chris Hemsworth, what was it, Extraction, if I'm not mistaken, that got a sequel,
yeah.
and
Yes.
that's coming out as well.
This is a much bigger budget than that. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, but yeah, okay. Like, I mean, obviously we've discussed the marketing that there's not been a lot of hype around it, but let's just get down to the movie here.
yeah,
And I must say, yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. Like,
yeah,
I actually what I really enjoyed about this movie, to be honest with you, is that it took away a lot of the seriousness of a lot of these spy movies. Essentially,
yeah,
like it's got a still seriousness, like especially like Ryan Gosling's character. He is a character called Sierra 6, and
yeah,
he's like, he kind of feels like that prototype of a
yeah,
spy. He's very serious, very, but everything else around it, like it's a movie that doesn't forget its sense of humor in a
yeah.
way. It's not quite like,
Especially
yeah,
with Chris Evans' performance. Like you're
yeah,
constantly
Lloyd, yeah,
aware. You're constantly aware that this movie isn't taking itself that seriously, Like even I noticed in some of the special effects stuff, like it's like Bond sort of goes for the realistic, but sometimes Bond does this crazy stuff, but we kind of accept it. Yeah, when something crazy happens, it's a little bit more extreme. There's a bit of Fast and the Furious in that, like
yeah.
like it's just like a guy running on a train and then he dives and there's a big explosion behind him and you're like, what? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah. It's actually
but
good.
you're accepting of it because this world sort of the humor and stuff is all part of it. It's I must say for me the biggest surprise was that Ryan Gosling signed on to this. This is like nothing like any of the other stuff he does. Like
Yeah.
usually
I
does
mean,
these art out stuff and then this is like all out action and there's a bit of comedy to it
yeah.
like you said.
And the thing is, like, you obviously seen Ryan Gosling in a similar sort of role where he was the driver in Drive. Obviously,
Yeah, but
you kind of
it's
see that
nothing
a
like
little bit. But the funny thing is,
that.
like, he kind of tries to play it straight a little bit, but obviously everything
Yeah,
else around it is kind of a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
I think you nailed it. You said it right. It's like James Bond in the Fast and the Furious sort of world, and I do
yeah,
see that. That's
yeah,
exactly how it is,
yeah.
because it is a little bit over the top. It is a little bit funny, and I think Chris Evans, like, I must say, like, and I mean, I know a lot of people are going to give me a lot of stick for this, but I think Chris Evans deteriorated as an actor after the MCU. Like, I'm just going to be honest. Like, the thing is, I used to enjoy a lot of his movies beforehand. Like, he was in the movie Cellular, and I mean, he was in Not Another Teen Movie. And I remember seeing him before he was cast as Captain America, or even
Yeah.
Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four. And I used to enjoy his performances. I used to enjoy his movies. I thought he was quite a good actor in this stuff he did. Then, when he signed up to the MCU, a lot of the stuff afterwards, I mean, even Knives Out, I did not enjoy him in Knives Out. I thought he was one of the weakest points in Knives Out. And
Hmm.
I kind of thought to myself, has Chris Evans just become almost like stuck in that sort of Captain America role that, like, perhaps there's something to do with me that
Yeah.
I can't see him as anything more? Or is it something where, the roles don't really fit whatever he's done? And I've kind of got, like, a little bit of a hesitance, like every time I'd see Chris Evans in a movie, Chris Evans again, like, sort of thing. And this movie actually, like, it reminded me of why I actually enjoy him as an actor, because he's got great
Yeah.
comedic timing. He's got great comedic chops.
Yeah.
And when he plays like that, the douchebag jock, that is like the
Yeah.
ultimate thing.
It's
And
like the
Evans nails it.
complete opposite of Captain America in this role. And he
He's
for me
perfect.
for me personally, like every scene that he was in, he literally stole. Like I was more interested in seeing him than seeing Ryan Gosling at points. Like he was just
Yeah, I get
such a
what you see.
fun
Yeah.
character. Yeah, it's just such a fun character to watch, and yeah,
I really love the
one of
interactions,
his
actually.
better ones, one of
I
his
really
better
enjoy the
roles.
interactions between like Chris Evans Lloyd
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Billy Bob Thornton's Fitzroy. Like, I really really love that.
yes,
Like, because Billy Bob, again, is super underrated actor. I think he can do anything,
yeah,
and he played
yeah,
the role, like, really really well. And I also, like, I'll be honest, I didn't actually recognize Jessica Henwick with that hairstyle. Like, like, Jessica Henwick was hidden up. Like, she was the agency. She was part of the agency of the CIA. She was, like, involved. I didn't recognize her. So I was like, hang on, that's Jessica Henwick. She was great as well, because I remember her obviously
yeah,
from the Iron Fist series and the recent Matrix movie, and she was
yeah,
fantastic in it. And I mean,
yeah,
the Roger Jean Page, as Denny Carmichael, the guy from
yeah. He was
Bridgerton.
good as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
he was so good. And you know what?
yeah,
Like, I know there was a lot of debate going around out there about, could he perhaps be cast as the new Bond? And I can see it. I'll be honest with you. Like,
yeah,
he's suave, and I mean, look, he's not. I wouldn't say he's Bond like here. He's more like a Bond villain. Let's put it that way, without
yeah,
giving too many
yeah.
spoilers. But I thought he was excellent. I thought he was really good and convincing.
Yeah, I think everybody did a good job. Yeah, I mean, even
Yeah,
the little girl, and that's usually like something that irritates people. Is like when they cast when they have
children,
kid
yes.
characters. Yeah, I mean that was a big problem with Kenobi recently, and but I thought this kid well, like
Yeah,
played her
she
part
was.
really well. She
The
was
actress is
never
Julia Butters.
irritating.
Yeah,
She
no,
was never
it was like.
irritating.
And she added a little bit of flair and some,
Yeah,
like, what I enjoyed about it was, I actually think you nailed it there. Like, in Kenobi, for example, the problem that I had with, like, the young Princess Leia was, I think the actress was too young to understand what was required of the role at that stage. Like, I think, the actress is obviously
yeah,
very young and coming to, but the way that they wrote the character should have probably been a little bit older. Like, the actress should have been a little bit older, because there's a certain comedic timing and certain self-awareness that you need. And I found that was missing a little bit in Kenobi at times. Whilst here, for example,
hmm,
Claire knows what she's doing, and she kind of knows when to crack the jokes, when to point out certain things, and it just feels a lot more natural. And I think it obviously
yeah.
helps because the actress is a little bit older, and it's understandable. But yeah, she was really good in that. I completely agree that there was, like, yeah. So with these kind of movies, like, the one thing that I really really enjoy is that this actually deviated from what you expected. Like, you kind of know when you go into these spy sort of movies that it's going to have a certain direction it goes in, and, like, everyone's going to turn against the spy and chase after the spy and do
Yeah,
certain things, and he's on the run, and and, like, there's certain elements of that here, but it's also got something else, like unexpected little twists and turns that make it a
Yeah,
little bit more interesting.
it's like little twists. It's not like huge stuff. It's like little
Yeah.
things that just make it more interesting.
But
Yeah,
I also got to say, it had a bit of a Knives Out sort of feel to it as well, in the sense that this movie, I also didn't know who you could trust all the time, because the movie also
yeah,
keeps like spinning you like all the time. Like, can Sierra Six, can Six actually trust this person? And then suddenly, like you realize, oh yes, and then say, oh no, you can't. Like it just kept you guessing the whole time. And I
yeah,
thought that was done really
yeah,
well, because it just makes it more exciting, and it kind of also shows like how cutthroat and ruthless the whole sort of spy world is, and I thought it was done quite
yeah,
well. I mean, this was one of the spy movies I've actually enjoyed the most recently, where I think this is really cool, and it's got the whole agency vibe and assassins. It just had all of that.
yeah. It was fun. It was really fun. Like a lot of
Yeah, and I mean,
them, a lot of the stuff now, like focused on the like the mystery part of it and all of that. But I thought focusing on the action I mean, there's a heck of a lot of action sequences in this. Like from beginning to end, it's full on action. But I think focusing on that was made it more interesting as well.
yeah, and I mean it's quite interesting. I actually just double checked as well, and the writers for the movie are Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, and they were also involved with all the previous like Captain America movies and Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. So this actually
It,
brought
it,
back the
it
team that
yeah,
made Endgame and all of it.
it has that feel to it though. Like it has the feel of what's the second Captain America movie?
Oh, the Winter Soldier.
Yes, yes, it has the feel to it of that to me, and a bit of
In
Civil
places,
War
yes.
maybe. Yeah,
In places, yes. I do think though, what I do find that this does is like it feels a little bit more organic as a film, and I mean I've got to say that I've probably given the Russos a lot of stick for some of the stuff in the
oh,
MCU,
same here,
which
same here.
which I don't necessarily think it's probably them. I think it's mandated, by Lord Feige and everyone else at the House of Mouse, because there are certain things that like in terms of the timing of jokes, in terms of certain things that you kind of like, oh, was this really necessary? Like the movies are great. Like I think they've got a great eye for visuals, and I think they're
Yeah,
able to tell a coherent story. That's never been a fault of theirs. But I always felt that sometimes the emotional stakes were a little bit. It felt like it was a little bit all over the place, and you couldn't take it very seriously. Whilst here,
yeah,
for example, it still has humor, but the humor feels like in the right places. It doesn't feel overdone. It feels
yeah,
like you can still. It is a little bit quirky, as you say. It's a little bit over fast and furious, but I mean, you're still feeling it. It's like that whole thing with Dom when he
yeah.
talks about family. There's not a dry eye in the room. Everyone knows that,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and I think that's
It's
the same thing
exactly
here.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're
So
right. It
now I need
does
to
have
ask you.
a fantastic four. It does have a Fast and Furious feel to it, like in the sense of the tone. You laugh a bit. There's big action
Yeah,
sequences, and there's these serious moments. Then you laugh again, and then it just sort of repeats itself.
yeah. Now, I need to ask you. Would you be keen to watch a sequel if this got greenlit? Like, would a
Oh,
sequel interest you? Would you be
definitely,
rushing to watch
definitely.
it?
I wouldn't be surprised if there is a sequel planned.
Okay, okay,
I'm almost 100% sure this movie is going to be one of Netflix's biggest releases yet. Like it's going to be
okay.
huge. I don't
All right,
think
and then
anybody is going to be against having the sequel.
okay, all right, and then finally, what would be your score for this movie out of 10?
8.
8.
Yeah.
Okay,
What? Yeah, you're going higher or lower?
lower.
Really?
I would probably give it a 7.5. 7,
That's the same
7.5.
thing, man.
No, it's not. We're not working with decimal points like the way you calculate
You're
if you
rounding
pass
it
at
up.
school. Don't
Yeah.
write it. Don't write
Round
it
it
off
up.
to the. No, man, that's how politicians count. They round off to the closest million. Stop it. No, I'd say a 7 leaning towards 7.5, but I'd say 7. Like I enjoyed it. Like I thought it was great. Like like for what it was supposed to be. But look, I mean, the fact is that I watched this a couple days ago before we were recording this podcast. And
Mhm.
the fact that I had to kind of think to myself, but think back before like we actually jumped on the call. I had to think,
I,
oh, what actually happened here? It did make it a
yeah.
little bit forgettable. So
Yeah,
there's an
it's
element of it that is
definitely,
a bit
yeah,
forgettable.
but I mean, isn't that what blockbuster movies are about? Like,
No,
this
exactly,
is
but
like such a popcorn thing. Like, you watch it,
it
you
is.
enjoy it, and then you forget about it completely afterwards. Like,
No, but it is.
that
But
is,
like you kind of like some of the stuff just doesn't make sense as a plot point when you start interrogating. Like, I mean, when you start pulling that string a little bit, the whole jersey comes apart. That's kind of the way that it feels a little bit. So yeah, I will give it a 7.
for me, it was a really good time. Like, I watched it and I was like, wow, this is good. But
Yeah,
my question to you: would you have paid to watch this at the cinema?
with better marketing, probably. But if I didn't know anything about it, probably not, because I don't think that the trailers or the promotional material has done enough to sell it. I think it's been banking on the fact that, oh, it's the people who did, the Avengers movies and Chris Evans, they
Yeah,
like back and they're doing it. And I don't think that's enough. I mean, I think look at Robert Downey Jr.'s, what was it, Doolittle, after,
yeah.
he was done
Oh,
with the
that's a
MCU. That
terrible
was a
movie.
flop. But I mean, that flopped badly. And I think
Yeah,
they kind of banked on the fact that, oh, well, it's Robert Downey Jr., it's Iron Man, people are going to go to the cinemas, and people didn't.
yeah,
And I think this is like another case of that with the Gray Man where they should have done. I think they should have done a little bit more. I personally, I've got to be frank. I've got to be honest. I have been very disappointed by the marketing. I don't know if it's internationally. I think just locally, from a South African perspective, I haven't seen hardly anything about it. I haven't been seeing it like being advertised. I mean, I'm not even getting those sponsored ads on Facebook, man. Like I'm getting like sponsored
yeah.
ads for that. What's a terrible one? Well, I don't know if it's terrible, but the one that everyone's complaining about. With the other Chris Pratt, the terminal list or something, right? It's a
Oh
terminal list. I
yes,
think
that's
it's on
everywhere.
Amazon.
That was at the airport the other day when I was dropping off my
Yeah,
mom. It's
I'm
literally
getting
everywhere.
I'm getting everything about that. Like I've seen more about this like thing, and I mean I've heard like chatter about it. A lot of people didn't enjoy it, but I've seen it everywhere, and it's got me curious to actually watch it
Yeah,
to see if it's really as bad as it is. Because I really don't know
yeah,
anything
because it's
about
so
it.
in your face. Like,
Yeah, it is
everywhere
in your
you
face.
look, it's
The
yeah,
gray man, it's like it's in a gray area, man. Like seriously, this is the thing about
yeah.
the movie. I don't know, like honestly, and I mean this is I don't know if it's internationally, if it's the same story. I mean, I haven't seen really a lot of it out there, like even on my Facebook feed or Twitter feed, like nothing. I mean, even on Instagram,
And
normally,
it's a film that's definitely worth marketing. It's a lot better than the terminal.
yeah, if you're dropping two
Like,
hundred
I've
million,
seen
you need to
I've
make an
seen
effort.
some of it, some of the terminal list, and it's yeah. I stopped watching after like 30 minutes or so because it just
Yeah,
becomes like the same thing that you've seen 100 times. Whereas this, like, it grabs you right from the beginning.
no, I just what Netflix needs to like amend their strategy. Like honestly, like in terms of marketing, because now we have a lot of different players. I mean, Disney Plus, like I mean, actually to an extent they annoy me, to be honest. Like in terms of the app on the phone, it sends me like a whole bunch of reminders. Oh, Miss Marvel here. Like, have you watched Kenobi? Like, yes, I've watched everything. Leave me alone. But you receive all those constant reminders, and those constant things are telling you something is there. Telling you that it's there for you to watch. And I don't see anything. Like I said, the Gray Man is like, if it wasn't the fact that you reminded me like the other day about some music, oh, yeah, I remember that. That looked cool. I actually want to see that. And then we actually
Mm,
like, requested screeners for it, and we had to go through a process. Like that for me is like, that's a big failure in terms of like, marketing and stuff. And I think that it needs to
yeah,
change because yeah, we have got a lot of players out there. We have got like different content coming at you every single week. And
yeah,
something like this, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a hit. I'm sure Netflix is going to be laughing all the way, with the billions of hours of watch time and whatever. And at the end of the day, our complaints are going to be stupid. But
yeah.
at some point, the strategy is going to break. You need to realign the
It's
strategy.
yeah. It kind of like Stranger Things. Stranger Things is so in your face now that, I mean, I've only watched season 1 and 2, but I'm thinking about watching the rest of it because it's like everywhere I look is just Stranger
It's
Things,
there.
and you kind of have this FOMO thing where you don't want to miss out on what everybody's talking about. Like, I have
Yeah,
no
you can't
idea
miss
what
it.
happens to any of the characters, but
Yeah.
I'm interested now because it's like literally everywhere.
No, for sure. And I think that's the thing. I mean, like I haven't seen anything exciting in terms of the marketing materials for the Grey Man, which is a shame because there's a lot of exciting elements in the movie. The fight scenes, as you said, the action is incredible, and they haven't shown even a little bit of that, which is crazy when you think about Hollywood, that they normally condense the entire movie into 2 minutes, like with every single one of the trailers. And here we haven't seen a little bit of it. And I think, look, it's a risky tactic. I think it could surprise people in a good way. And I mean, we'll obviously have to wait and see what happens when the movie comes out. But there's a lot here that they could have done to market this, which I just feel that this is just going under the radar at the moment. And there's a lot of action movies coming out around about this time period. I mean, we've got Bullet Train is coming out. That's obviously that's a big screen release. We've got all these other movies that are coming out around now. We even got The Old Man, which is also something, in terms of assassins and spies. That's a series that's ongoing. So there's a lot of similar stuff that could be kind of overlapping, kind of, the time Hollywood released those 2 Hercules movies and we didn't know which one we were watching.
Yes, that's kind of how I feel about Bullet Train and The Grey Man. It's sort of the same thing. Yeah.
So you're not 100% certain, like, which one am I going to watch now? That's how it kind of feels a little bit. And so with the release that stuff, you're like, oh, is this the one with The Rock or the one with the guy from Twilight? I don't know. You're not sure. So I just think in terms of marketing,
I see some of the reviews have just dropped in. It doesn't look very positive at the moment, so we'll see.
Well, we're going to see. But look, I mean, to everyone else out there listening, I mean, are you interested in The Grey Man? Are you watching it? Have you watched it? I mean, depending when you obviously listen to this podcast or not. Let us know in the comments. And I mean, tell us, would you want to see a sequel? Do you think that Netflix has done a good job of marketing the movie to you? Or is it something that you stumbled upon because you're a fan of Ryan Gosling or Chris Evans? Let us know in the comments. And whilst you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel as well, because we're always putting out new content and interesting things for you guys to listen to and enjoy, especially when you're eating at the table. We don't want you to speak to your family. We want you to listen to our podcast so you can argue with us, because family time is overrated. I don't want Jared to say anything here. Once again, Jared, thanks a lot for joining me. It's been really great. And we'll catch up soon. Everyone else out there, take it easy and catch you on the flip side.